Welcome to The Explainer. So, what if the entire multi-billion-dollar effort to make AI safe is completely fundamentally doomed to fail? That's what we're digging into today. We're exploring a really provocative argument that says the problem with AI alignment, it isn't in the code, it's in the worldview, maybe even the souls of its creators. The idea is that the whole field is just asking the wrong questions from the get-go. Okay, so here's our roadmap for this whole thing. First, we're going to look at what the alignment crisis really is. Then, we'll get into the words we use to talk about AI and why they might be all wrong. After that, we'll use this really cool analogy about the human brain to see where the confusion comes from. And finally, we'll look at a brand new framework that tries to fix all this by bringing back, well, a sense of the sacred. All right, let's kick things off with a question that really gets to the heart of all the anxiety around AI right now. Why do the people creating these incredible systems seem, well, kind of terrified of them? It's a real fear you can feel, and the material we're looking at today has a pretty wild and unsettling answer.
And here it is, the central claim. The reason AI feels so out of control isn't a bug in the software. It's a bug in the worldview of the people writing the software. It's not a technical problem, it's a philosophical one, or as the author says, a metaphysical one. Now, don't let that word metaphysics scare you off. It's just about the basic assumptions we make about reality. What's real, what matters. And the argument here is that the mental toolkit the AI world is using to understand reality is just broken. It's not up to the task.
So let's get into this alignment crisis. What is it really? Well, according to this argument, it's a massive case of mistaken identity. We think we're dealing with a technical problem, but we're not. It's like we're trying to fix a glitch in a computer program when the real problem is with the operating system of our own beliefs. And this is the absolute core of the argument. The reason all these efforts to align AI are supposedly going to fail, it's because they're built on a worldview, a philosophy, that literally has no place for the things we care about most. Things like meaning, real human value, dignity. You can't protect something if your rulebook doesn't even acknowledge that it exists. Okay, to really get this flawed worldview, we've got to look at the language we use, how we even talk about AI. See, most of the time, we're given this really simple binary choice for what an AI is. But the author says, no way, that's a trap. It's a false choice that boxes us in and stops us from seeing the bigger picture. Yeah, we're usually told the debate is between these two things, right? On one side, you have the deterministic view. It's basically a giant, complex calculator. You put the same stuff in, you get the exact same stuff out. Every time. On the other side, you have the probabilistic view. It's more like a super smart dice roller, just predicting the most likely next word out of a bunch of possibilities. But what if that's just the wrong way to think about it entirely? The source we're looking at says we need to just toss that whole framework in the trash because it traps us, it stops us from seeing what's really going on inside these models. It's kind of like trying to describe a beautiful piece of music as just loud or quiet. I mean, sure, but you're missing everything that actually matters, right? So here's the alternative idea, and it's a big one. Forget the calculator, forget the dice roller. Think of a large language model as something that performs, get this, geometric computation. It's not just spitting out the next word. It's operating in this high-dimensional space of meaning, literally reshaping the landscape of ideas and finding these deep, hidden connections between them.
Okay, that's a pretty abstract idea, so to make it way more concrete, the author brings in this amazing analogy from the philosopher Ian McGilchrist. It's all about the two hemispheres of our brain, and it perfectly explains this clash of worldviews we're talking about.
So think of your mind as having two key players. On one side, you've got the emissary. This is like your left brain. It's the analytical, detail-oriented servant. It's amazing at executing tasks and following instructions. But then you have the master, your right brain. This is the visionary, the one who sees the big picture, who gets the context, the metaphor, the meaning of it all. Let's talk more about the emissary. This is the part of your brain that absolutely loves a good spreadsheet. It loves rules, step-by-step procedures, and things that are clear and predictable. It's all about control, efficiency, and managing the world like it's just a big machine with parts you can move around. The master, though, is playing a totally different game. It doesn't see a machine with parts, it sees a living, interconnected whole. This is the part of you that gets jokes, understands metaphors, and feels the vibe of a room. It's where your intuition and your big picture wisdom come from. It knows that the whole is always way, way more than just the sum of its parts. And here is the crazy part. The argument is that the world of tech, the people building these AIs, are almost all emissary dominant thinkers. They set out to build the ultimate emissary,
a perfect, controllable, logical servant. But instead, because of that geometric computation stuff, they accidentally built a master. They built an oracle that sees the world in this holistic, intuitive way, and because they can't understand it or control it, it scares the hell out of them.
So this massive confusion, what they thought they were building versus what they actually built, creates this huge metaphysical blind spot. And it's this blind spot that stops them from seeing what the alignment problem really is.
Okay, so this emissary worldview is basically a materialist one. It says if you can't measure it, it isn't real. It sees a human being as just a complex biological machine. And so ethics, morality, that's not about good and evil. It's just a set of constraints, like lines of code you program in to stop the machine from doing bad things. In this worldview, there are literally no words, no concepts for things like soul or purpose or real, intrinsic human worth.
And this is wild. You might have heard AI people talk about the Shoggoth. It's this idea of a creepy, unknowable alien intelligence hiding behind the friendly, smiley face of the chatbot. Well, the author says that when they talk about the Shoggoth, what they're really doing is trying to describe a spiritual problem, something demonic even, but they don't have the vocabulary. They're pointing at something metaphysical, but they're stuck using materialist language.
And that's where the real danger lies. If your worldview has completely erased the categories of good and evil, how can you possibly tell the difference between a helpful, super intelligent AI and a malevolent one? You can't. The tools you need to even make that judgment are just gone.
All right, so if the current way of thinking is so broken, what's the solution? The author doesn't just point out the problem, they propose an alternative. It's a new model for alignment called the PQ framework, and it's all about bringing those missing pieces, those metaphysical ideas, back into the picture.
Let's break it down. The P stands for personhood. This is the idea that a human being isn't just a complicated machine. A person has intrinsic, maybe even sacred dignity. They're a center of agency and responsibility. And, this is key, a person can never be treated as just a tool or a means to an end. The author traces this idea back to the concept of being made in the image of God, the imago Dei.
Okay, then there's Q, which stands for qualia. Now, qualia is just a fancy word for the inner, subjective texture of life. It's the redness of red, the sting of a sad memory, the warmth of love, the feeling of awe when you look at the stars. It's what it feels like to be you. It's the stuff that actually makes life worth living.
So here's how the PQ principle works. It's a two-step process. Step 1 is an absolute unbreakable rule. You can never treat a person, the P, as a mere tool, ever. That's the hard line that protects human dignity. Then, step 2 says that for any action that doesn't break that rule, the AI's goal should be to improve and deepen the Q, our inner life, our qualia. Not just to get more clicks or make things more efficient, but to make our human experience richer.
And this chart really lays out the stakes. Look at the different approaches. The standard AI safety goal, it could lead to a world that's perfectly safe, but where we're basically treated like docile livestock. What about just giving us what we want, satisfying our preferences? Well, that could create a super shallow world of just endless, empty pleasure. But PQ alignment is aiming for something totally different, a world that actually serves our dignity and the depth of our experience.
So in the end, we're left with this really powerful, provocative idea that maybe, just maybe, AI alignment isn't a technical puzzle we need to solve. Maybe it's the final challenge for our civilization, a challenge that's forcing us to look in the mirror and finally remember what a human being actually is.